Lately, we've witnessed Marco Rubio getting thoroughly taken down by various senators and other individuals in numerous videos. However, in this clip, we're about to observe a particularly fiery confrontation between Marco Rubio and Senator Van Harland. Let's view the entire video, and then I'll share my thoughts with you all.
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, you and I served together in Congress for 15 years. We didn't always agree, but I believe we shared some common values. A belief in defending democracy and human rights abroad and honoring the Constitution at home. That's why I voted to confirm you. I believed you would stand up for those principles. You haven't. You've done the opposite. And you used to speak with conviction about the importance of foreign aid as a tool to advance American values and interests. Then you stood by while Elon Musk took a chainsaw to USAID and other assistance programs. That has left a staggering toll. Broken trust with countries, openings for China and other adversaries, and countless preventable deaths of children and others. Take Sudan, for example. The freezing of U.S. humanitarian assistance forced the closure of nearly 80% of the emergency food kitchens there. 2 million famine-affected people were left without access to food. People died because of those actions. Mothers, fathers, and children. Tons of emergency food that could have saved their lives was left rotting in warehouses because you and Elon Musk refused to let USAID do its job. Sudan is a country where, by the administration's own determination, a genocide is unfolding in Darfur. But here's where it goes from cruel to despicable. While cutting off food aid to Sudanese families living through an actual genocide, you're fast-tracking white South Africans for refugee status under a manufactured claim that they are the victims of genocide. You tried to block the admission of individuals who had already been approved to come here as refugees while making bogus claims to justify granting such status to Afrikaners. You've made a mockery of our country's refugee process, turning it into a system of global apartheid where political ideology and race, more than truth or need, matter. And while you've turned away from a genocide in Sudan and invented one in South Africa, you teamed up with President Trump to throw the Ukrainian people under the bus and have been played like a fiddle by Vladimir Putin. Of course, Donald Trump not only said he would end the war in Ukraine on day one, he also said he would end the war in Gaza on day one. And yet last week, you were all running around to Gulf states, giving away very sensitive American AI and chips technology, but doing nothing to end the war in Gaza and get the remaining hostages returned. You know that for 78 days, the Netanyahu government did not allow a scrap of food to enter Gaza to reach over 2 million civilians. 57 children have died from malnutrition so far, and more than 14,000 children are in imminent danger of dying of starvation. As Cindy McCain said last week, and I quote, "Families in Gaza are starving while the food they need is sitting at the border." That is a gross violation of both U.S. and international law. What did you do? Nothing. Not once did you publicly call upon the Netanyahu government to end the blockade. Fortunately, other countries spoke out, and now we see a tiny trickle going in. Where have you focused your energy instead, Mr. Secretary? Well, your first trip as Secretary of State was to El Salvador, not to promote democracy, but to cozy up to President Bukele, who calls himself the world's coolest dictator. The result was a cash for collusion deal to deprive people living in America of their constitutional rights to due process. The Supreme Court, in a 9-0 decision, instructed you to facilitate the return to the United States of Abrego Garcia, who the administration admitted was wrongfully deported to El Salvador. Your response? You've openly flouted judicial orders. When asked whether you have been in touch with El Salvador to return Abrego Garcia, you boasted, quote, "I would never tell you that. And you know who else I would never tell? A judge." Clearly, you don't care about the Fifth Amendment right to due process, and you don't care about the First Amendment either, since you've been very busy snatching students off of college campuses for exercising their right to free speech. You dredged up a relic from the McCarthy era to claim that student protesters posed a threat to the foreign policy of the United States. Give me a break, Mr. Secretary. You know as well as I do this isn't about national security, it's about punishing free speech. And you know that in America, the government doesn't get to use its power to punish speech it doesn't like. Yet in March, you boasted about revoking student visas, saying, and I'm quoting, "We do it every day. Every time I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visa," unquote. Let's look at one of those lunatics, Mr. Secretary, Ms. Ozturk. Her crime was co-authoring an op-ed in her college paper critical of Tufts University's response to the war in Gaza. Your own department found zero links to terrorism, no anti-Semitic statements, but you still yanked her visa and shipped her off to detention in Louisiana. And the list goes on and on. The federal judge in the case of Mohsen Madawi, who is the Columbia student who was ambushed by federal agents at his citizenship appointment, said, and I quote, this is the judge, "Legal residents not charged with crimes or misconduct are being arrested and threatened with deportation for stating their views on the political issues of the day. Our nation has seen times like this before, especially during the Red Scare and Palmer raids. Like the McCarthy-era witch hunts of the 1950s, your campaign of fear and repression is eating away at foundational values of our democracy. Back then, it took one voice, Attorney Joseph Welch, to cut through the hysteria with the simple question that marked the beginning of the end of that shameful era. He asked Senator McCarthy, "Have you no sense of decency?" And I would ask you the same, Secretary Rubio. But you have shown through your words and your actions what the answer is. And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
This segment features one of the harshest and most unforgiving denunciations we've encountered in ages, and rightly so. What Senator Van Hollen presents isn't merely a collection of complaints, it's a scathing critique of a Secretary of State who, according to the senator, has forsaken the core principles he once upheld. Right from the beginning, the message is intensely personal. This isn't just a matter of differing opinions on policies. It's about a betrayal. That cuts deep because it comes from someone you hoped shared your beliefs. The senator makes it clear they worked together, disagreements were there, but they had a common foundation: championing democracy globally and supporting the Constitution domestically. Van Hollen declares that this trust is now in ruins. He then meticulously details how it all went wrong. First, looking at the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, the senator paints a dire picture. Emergency food centers closing, 2 million people facing famine are left isolated, vital food supplies decaying in warehouses while a genocide takes place in Darfur, all of which, he claims, traces back to decisions by the Secretary and Elon Musk. The imagery is intensely disturbing. These are not abstract victims, but real people, parents and children who perished because essential aid was obstructed. The situation worsens with the comparison, siding with false claims of genocide against white South Africans. The Secretary's office, Van Hollen argues, accelerated their process while ignoring actual genocide in Sudan. It's not mere hypocrisy. The senator brands it global apartheid. The term is chosen deliberately, designed to be provocative and charged with ethical weight. It challenges the audience to grapple with the idea that U.S. refugee policy is being manipulated through racial and ideological biases. Next is Ukraine. Van Hollen links the Secretary's stance with Trump to strategic victories for Putin. This criticism surpasses mere negligence. It accuses him of being played by a major American adversary. And it's not limited to Ukraine. Gaza is included as well. The senator highlights that during a 78-day period, food entered Gaza, trapping and starving over 2 million civilians. 57 children died from malnutrition, with 14,000 more at grave risk. Yet, according to Van Hollen, the Secretary remained silent. This marks the peak of moral indignation. Van Hollen references Cindy M.C. Kane, not typically known for being outspoken, who states unambiguously that food waits at the border as families go hungry. This is far from a political slogan, it's a humanitarian emergency. The list continues. In El Salvador, the senator critiques a rapport with a self-proclaimed cool dictator while neglecting constitutional rights, defying a unanimous ruling by the Supreme Court, evading compliance with court orders, and even boasting about it. The senator's message is unmistakable. This isn't merely poor policy, it's an outright disdain for the rule of law. Then he turns to perhaps the most alarming issue, the crackdown on student protesters. Van Hollen traces a direct line from MC Carthy's tactics to the present day, contending that the Secretary has resurrected Cold War-era methods to stifle dissent, withdrawing student visas, deporting individuals for merely voicing political views, and doing so while acknowledging there's no terrorism link. It's an exploitation of authority not for protecting national security, but for suppressing dissent. The senator isn't shy about identifying individuals. He recounts the story of Miss Ost, whose only crime was co-authoring a critical op-ed about her university's stance on the Gaza conflict. He references a Columbia student ambushed during his citizenship meeting. He points out a federal judge's warning about this kind of repression, likening it to the most grim periods in American history, such as the Red Scare, the Palmer Raids, the witch hunts. Then, resonating with historical significance, Van Hollen alludes to Joseph Welch's iconic rebuke to MC Carthy. Have you no sense of decency? It's more than rhetorical. It's a calculated effort to cast this secretary as a figure who, much like McCarthy, might be remembered not for accomplishments, but rather for the indelible mark left on the nation's soul. This speech is crafted to leave a lasting impression, to be revisited. The language is biting, the ethical thread consistent, the stakes monumental. The senator isn't simply at odds with him. He's declaring, "You've turned your back on your oath, harmed the nation, and violated the values you profess to uphold." For viewers, regardless of their political stance, the lingering query remains if those who initially placed their trust in and appointed this man to the pinnacle of diplomacy now argue he lacks any sense of decency, what does it say about the condition of American leadership and the price of remaining quiet? Let's dive back into the video.
May I respond?
You may sit.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job, based on what I know.
Well, that's
about
just
your
a
record
flippant
and what
statement,
you
Mr.
stand for.
Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't ask
Senator,
questions.
please let the Secretary have
I'd be
the floor.
happy to, but then I can respond to his.
Your time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add.
Well-
Your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman-
Secretary, please.
Well, I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation.
I raised
don't regret
Sudan, Mr.
psychosocial support services.
I
for
raised
USAID.
Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I
not
respond,
Mozambique.
Mr. Chairman, or do I?
Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes of
I chose to
railing on-
use my time that way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to
Please
use my
suspend,
time that way.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come,
Mr.
you're going to
Chairman,
see who you went to
look,
defend.
I'm sorry,
Please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments
Senator,
like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You've had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court in
Senator-
the United States because
Well,
he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I have under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them we've had communications with the president of El Salvador, I am under no obligation under our division of powers in this country and to share with the judicial branch how I conducted diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again, and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order. What I won't comply with is an order to disclose what I'm saying and what we're talking about with a foreign leader, because then they won't talk to me. Diplomacy doesn't work that way. About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas, and it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a
Is that what Ms.
visa.
Ozturk did?
We're not going to give you a
Is that what she
visa. And if you
did?
do
Come
that,
on, Mr. Secretary.
and every single
You're
one of
just
these
blowing
cases, the
smoke
factors
here,
are
man.
different.
Senator,
The bottom line is, if you're
Senator,
coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you
Does
have
the
a
First
visa
Amendment
and we find
apply
you,
to
we will
people
revoke
living
it.
in the United
And
States?
we're going to do more. There are more coming. We're going to continue to revoke the visas of people who are here as guests and are disrupting our higher education facilities. People are paying money. These kids pay money to go to school, and they have to walk through
Writing
a bunch
an
of
op-ed
lunatics
to the
who are
tough
here on student
newspapers
visas.
disrupting the
Simple
foreign
as
policy
that.
of the United
I want to
States.
do more. I hope we can
That's
find more of these people.
pathetic, Mr.
In fact, the other day, some guys led a riot. I forgot what university it was, and I asked, please, can you find the arrest records of all the people that were arrested at that riot at that campus? Because if any of them have a visa, we're going to revoke
I
it.
feel so much safer
All right,
when you lock
let's,
up people like Ms. Osterk, Mr. Secretary.
We've had enough time.
Well, that was an incredibly intense back and forth, as you all observed. Van Hollen displayed significant frustration and anger in his responses to Marco Rubio. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio made several statements that were, to put it plainly, factually incorrect. It's widely known that the U.S. Constitution grants people with a visa the right to voice their opinions on various matters. These individuals weren't engaging in violence or causing any disruptions. They were merely protesting and exercising a right they are entitled to. However, I don't want to keep you for much longer. This video has already gone on for a while. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button to help the video reach a wider audience via the YouTube algorithm, and turn on the bell notifications so you'll be alerted every time we upload a new video. I look forward to seeing your comments and thoughts down below. See you in the next one.